What dark secret are you hiding from everyone? When my grandpa was on his deathbed, he admitted to killing fellow Marines in the Vietnam War for torturing and raping young girls. Most of our family doesn't know. Pest control technician here. You're paying too much for pest control. Whoever you hired, unless it's a fairly small company, they are ripping you off. Unless you have cockroaches or bedbugs, YouTube bet. Times are hard enough right now. Sometimes I spend whole meetings wondering how they got the big meeting table through the door. One of my closest coworkers, who is an integral part to a very large corporation, killed a man in his late teens and threw the body in a lake. He only got off on a technicality. I work remotely, so I don't build a lot of personal relationships with people I work with regularly. I googled his full name. It freaked me out at first, but I've kinda gotten over it. I wonder if anyone else knows. It happened 40 plus years ago. He will retire soon and then I might ask another coworker about it. I just don't want to stir the pot. What dark secret are you hiding from everyone? My girlfriend started selling used pants and stuff online. Someone wanted used insoles from her shoes. I walk for about 6 hours at a time at work and often just put her insoles in my shoes. Those perverts are getting off to the smell of my sweaty feet thinking it's a girl. My grandpa was stationed in Okinawa, Japan during the Korean War. While in the Marines, he hooked up with a woman there, and she got pregnant. So, I have a Japanese aunt and a few cousins, in Japan, whom I've never met before. My brother and I did a 23andMe. We discovered we have a half-sibling, same father, who is older than us. I messaged them but no reply. Since the half-sibling is older, it was during my father's military career, which was short-lived because he got a dishonorable discharge that he hides from his family still. Today I fulfilled my greatest sexual fantasy, just to find out that I don't like it in real life. Me and my wife just did a threesome with another guy. I have always fantasized this, even with my exes, and it's something that I always masturbate to. So, please, if you are monogamic, just try to have an open-minded view and don't judge. But, well, it wasn't that good. At some moments it wasn't good at all, but I just couldn't stop because she was enjoying a lot. Now I feel like thrash and I don't know what to do, or to think, since this feeling and desire walked with me my whole life. The guy is a close friend of mine, and this is good for some reasons and bad for others. I don't feel exactly insecure. But it caught me off guard that after the last sex I went to bathroom and when I came back they were already sleeping. In a very cute way, because before we start the last sex I was really trying very hard to stay awake because she couldn't sleep. So I felt very alone because I felt that after she got what she wanted I wasn't being considerated anymore. I have even said that the previously sex had triggered some headaches because of the exhaustion, but she didn't care, and when we went to sleep it happened. I don't know if it's worse to know that I didn't like my greatest fantasy or to know that we weren't sufficient mature to do it in a good way for everyone. What's a hobby someone can have that is an immediate red flag? Making see-through Lego men with mouse organs inside. Well, reading the comments I'm feeling better about my Warhammer collection. Kids beauty pageants. My old roommate used to go out driving on rainy days specifically to splash pedestrians. That seems pretty red flaggy to me. There was a post of a guy that was angry at his mother because her hobby was to find random people on the net, find everything about them and message them about it. Guy who spends hours each week on IG, commenting, liking and DMing random models they never met. Cutting the eyes out of pictures of women in magazines. As a Magic the Gathering player, Magic the Gathering, have you ever walk out during sex? Why, yes, I was hammered drunk and wanted pancakes. In the heat of moments started having sex with my ex, then I remembered why I broke up with her in the first place and I just walked away. It was hard but it was worth it. She bit my ear so hard it started bleeding and wouldn't let go. I was done after that. Had a guy bite my boob once during sex, and not in the fun sexy way. That fucking hurt. Told him not to do it again. Few minutes later he did it again and wasn't letting go. Need him to get him to let go and left. The condom started to slip so I pulled out to fix it. She turned around and it was at that moment I realized she was ugly crying. She had just gotten out of a long-term relationship so I knew it was up. We stopped and went on about our day. What's the most NSFW experience you witnessed right in front of your eyes? I watched a man fall when his rappelling gear failed. He fell about 100 feet, and the sound his body made when he hit will haunt me forever. He broke his spine, pelvis, both legs, one arm, and an orbital bone, but he survived. There were a lot of people around to give first aid, and I helped carry him out of the canyon to the ambulance, and I swear I thought he was dead already. He looked like thawed hamburger meat. The Rangers? Park Police? Took our info, and a few days later, to our surprise, the guy was alive and wanted to see the people who carried him out. He gave us all some really nice leather backpacks from the company he worked for. I still have it some 20 plus years later. What's the most NSFW experience you witnessed right in front of your eyes? A co-worker, just before quitting, took a shit in their cubicle. They wanted to have him charged with indecent exposure, but since no one saw him, besides me, and I wasn't admitting to having seen it, they dropped it. They also tried to use the defecating in public laws, but the police pointed out that their office was in fact private, not a public space. The man became a legend around the office. Going back to my apartment after college classes ended, homeless people fucking right outside my apartment complex by a tree. I'd try not to make eye contact. Hey, you want to join? Ooh, no thanks. Have a good night. I wasn't there for this, but my coworkers were at a lunch and a woman pulled out her boob and squirted milk at a very high-ranking employee across the table. What's something we all just pretend no one does, but in truth we know we all do it. It is not the picking of the nose that separates us, but what comes after. My dad, 2015, panic clean before guests come over to then apologize for the mess. Edit. I've come to the realization that this was all just a humble brag attempt by my mom. Kids hide their profanity from adults, and adults hide their profanity from kids, because both sides must maintain the illusion that the other side doesn't know that they know profanity. Read messages from the notification bar then pretending you didn't see the message only much later. Recently I had to insist that my wife knocks loudly and waits before opening my son's bedroom door. I really had to explain why FFS. I know he's constantly jacking off, but he would be mortified if anyone knew, especially his parents. My husband spit in my plate after I refused to share it with him. I need to vent without being judged. Last night, I made dinner and served my husband his portion, then went into the room to study for my upcoming exam. I reheated my portion later at around 11 p.m. and sat down to eat. My husband was asleep at the time, then he woke up, showed up in the kitchen and stood by the door saying if he was hungry. I told him to look in the fridge for some snakes, but he wanted some of my food. I said I was sorry but was so hungry and needed a hot meal. He insisted. I still said no. He went ahead and grabbed a spoon and tried to eat from my plate, but I took it away just in time. Immediately and without any warning, he spits into the plate, then throws the spoon in the sink, then casually walk out while calling me a petty bitch. I was so shocked to the point of shaking, and because of being overwhelmed with studying and other issues I just broke down crying. Now that plate was filled with both his spit and my tears. I ended up throwing it out and started a screaming match with him. He accused me of being petty and selfish, then said I pushed him to do this. We have not been speaking since then. He's acting like he was justified in what he did. What things do Americans like and the rest of the world not so much? College sports. Particularly football and basketball. The rest of the world loves soccer, but nobody gives a hoot about it at the university level. Root beer and ranch dressing. I brought some to Germany and had my friends try it and they said the root beer tasted like medicine. They politely tasted the dressing with celery and said interesting, but the look on their faces was that it was terrible. Month, day, year, date format. My sister is visiting the US from Europe and sent me a picture of a small Coke and asked why is it so big? I could see Old Glory flapping in the wind. Boys, eyes filled till the brim before you pour any drink. Imperial units and Fahrenheit. Today I fricked up by using an ice cold bidet to wash my butt and collapsing on the toilet. Please excuse my English as it's my second language. This is my first time living in a cold country that experiences snow. It wasn't snowing but the temperature was extremely low. I had installed a simple bidet when I first moved into my apartment because I grew up using one and felt weird if I didn't. It was nothing fancy and I connected it to the cold water not thinking much of it. I'd never used a heated bidet before so I didn't think I'd need one. Now here is how it went down. It's a normal day and I turn on my bidet and begin washing my butt. The second the ice cold water hit my bumhole, every muscle and vein in my body contracted at the same time. I couldn't think, I just sat there as the very cold water violated me. Think of a brain freeze you get when eating ice cream but down under. Your asshole is what's frozen. I started to feel dizzy and not being able to think. I got up and immediately fell on the floor and hit my head on the sink. I lied on the floor for what felt like an eternity but was only a few minutes while my butt freeze went away. Thankfully I wasn't badly hurt, but it could have been much worse. Later when I explained to my friend why I have a bump on my head, they couldn't stop laughing, so I thought I'd share for your amusement. Which celebrity is considered beautiful but you just can't see it? Remember when Blake Shelton was named sexiest man alive and literally not a single person agreed? Leonardo DiCaprio was cute and then rapidly aged into Jack Nicholson. Chrissy Teigen. Drake. Like why? In what dimension or planet? Adam Levine. He looks like a thumb with glued on ears and glued on patchy face hair that someone else shaved off first. Chris Brown. Even before the Rihanna thing I never understood why people had the hots for him. After Rihanna? Even uglier. Kim Kardashian. I do not get her at all. How did you find out you were getting cheated on? The guy shot me a message on social media, said he was sorry and didn't know she was in a relationship. I bumped into him at a bar years later and bought him a drink. He pocket dialed me while bragging about it to a co-worker. The universe really had my back on that one. I didn't know at the time we broke up, for sure, but she was engaged a week after we broke up. I can't even figure out how that worked. Exactly. Phone bill. She was texting some random number 600 times a month. I thought I recognized the number and when I put it in my phone it was a buddy of mine. When she left me cause she got pregnant, and thought it was a different guy's. Turns out I was one of 3 possible dads. Couple years later and a few paternity tests and turns out it was mine. What's the most NSFW experience you witnessed right in front of your eyes? A girl blowing a guy at a bus stop at like 2 a.m. She then threw up and continued sucking his wee-wee. Never change. Glasgow. Driving Uber I caught a dude jerking off in my car. Turned around and he had his wee-wee in one hand and his phone in the other hand recording it. It kind of stunned me at how bold he was. I kicked him out and still charged him for the entire ride. This was one of the reasons I bought a dual-facing dashcam. Worked at an aluminum plant. One of the mills was down for a few days. I went to the pulpit to sleep and chill since I didn't have shit to do. Walk in and 2 of my coworkers, both men, both very much married, banging away. I just turned around and left. The rest of the time I worked with them was awkward for sure. What's the most NSFW experience you witnessed right in front of your eyes? I was in a train compartment sitting by a window. It was broad daylight. There were two young students, boy and girl. Suddenly the girl opened the guy's fly and started to jack him off. I did not know how to react, as nothing like that happened to me before. Also they blocked my way to the corridor. They did not even close the curtains, so the conductor girl passing by saw them too, and apparently did not know how to react as well. Then they got off on the very next stop. I think they did not have a ticket. What's the most NSFW experience you witnessed right in front of your eyes? Ran into a burning house as a teenager. It was an old couple just a few houses down from mine. Got through the living room, into the dining area, but smoke started getting bad. Got down on my knees and crawled to the hallway, to look into the bedrooms. The couple were dead, in bed, burning. I know this by the shape of the lumps, not because they were recognizable. I learned two things. 1. Don't ever run into a burning house, it's dumb. I got lucky. 2. The smell of burning humans is something you never forget. What's the most NSFW experience you witnessed right in front of your eyes? In a club in Berlin, Germany. It was quite sex positive. A woman in her 30s sat down next to me on a weird chair and we started chatting. At some point during the conversation a man kneeled down in front of her and started to fist her consensually. She didn't break eye contact. She didn't even flinch. She just continued the conversation like normal. I had no idea how to deal with that and didn't want to be rude, so we continued the conversation and I tried to ignore the man who had half his arm in her hoo-ha. What did the pandemic ruin more than we realize? I'm not sure if anyone else feels the same way, but my perception of time hasn't really returned back to normal since then. It ruined me on traffic. For one glorious year, as an essential worker I had the roads almost entirely to myself. It was beautiful. Grocery shopping at 2 a.m. was the best thing ever. Now I have to shop with the rest of you hooligans and it fucking sucks. Night shift people lives. Nothing is ever open late anymore. My perception on money. I worked so hard to pay off debt, save up for a new house, get promotions. Now with the rise of housing costs and inflation I feel like money is literally such a made-up thing and I have no control over anything even with all the right decisions. A man I had known for less than an hour left skid marks on my sheets. It's kind of all in the title, but for posterity's sake I'll tell the story. I invited a guy I didn't really know over to my place to cuddle because I wasn't feeling well. Things obviously ended up escalating, and after it took over an hour to get him to leave, I sat on the floor for about 10 minutes processing what had just happened, then turned my lights on to rearrange my bed into its proper order. When I found them, light brown, large streaks of shit on my sheets, I vomited. This is easily in the top 5 worst things that have ever fucking happened to me and I just needed to tell someone, so this is our burden to share together now. You are offered $1 million if you can name a place where nobody in history has ever had sex. What is your answer? On top of the elephant's foot beneath the Chernobyl power plant, inside an industrial shredder, in a pineapple under the sea, Uranus, the sun, bottom of Mariana's Trench, peak of Everest. You know the person who invented the fake X button in mobile game ads? His bed, the inside of a humpback whale. What have you done in a moment of horniness that was against your better judgment? My girlfriend and I ran out of condoms, but we were already hot and heavy, so we said fuck it and decided to go with the pull-out method. My son turns 16 in May. Soon everyone will know he's been messing with his stepmother and stepsister. For a little while I've suspected my husband of cheating. I didn't have any justification for thinking or feeling this way, but I couldn't stop having this gut feeling that something was wrong. So I decided to keep a closer eye on him and I still found nothing. And for a long time I was angry with myself for suspecting him and for invading his privacy. We went to marriage counseling and I apologized for breaking his trust in me, and for a little while all was well. But that wretched feeling never went away. I tried so hard to get over this feeling that he was deceiving me in some way and I just couldn't. So I decided it was time to hire a private investigator instead of playing Inspector Gadget myself. Let me tell you, this was the best thing I ever spent money on. Within a month the PI was able to confirm my suspicions, but it was a shock to find out that it was his stepsister and his stepmother. Not only that he may be the father of his stepsister's newborn baby. I could have killed him, but I kept my composure and I kept this information to myself and continued to act as normal as possible. Believe me, that was a very difficult thing to do. I slowly started detaching from him and even moved into our spare bedroom, and we continued to drift apart. I moved out, got a new job and started saving money for our divorce. I got my life in order. Now here we are almost a year later and in the final stages of our divorce, and I've still not told anyone. I've spent the last year preparing for our divorce because I'll be damned to leave this marriage empty-handed. I wanted to handle our financial affairs first because my husband works for his father and I didn't want to leave him unemployed during our divorce process. This son of a cunt dragged out our divorce and fought me for everything, even things that were mine to begin with, but I kept my calm and I won't say a word until I get everything I deserve. That's when I'll tell his father. And his father is not a man to be messed with. I've been assured the check will clear in 3 days and it's over for Robert, cause as soon as that money hits my account his mother, stepmother, stepsister, brother-in-law and father will receive a beautifully written email with pictures and videos of what he has been up to. His dad will tear him apart. A stripper made me cry. The other night my boyfriend and I were out celebrating a friend's birthday. As the night went on, People started talking about bar hopping to a nearby strip club. I was very hesitant, and my boyfriend offered for us to just go home, but I didn't want to kill the vibe and I was having fun with friends, so I decided to go. I'll admit my insecurities were running loudly in my head. I don't think I'm ugly, but I'm a curvy girl, and being in a room of topless women with my dream body is intimidating. Our group sat at a table near one of the stages, and one of the most beautiful girls I've ever seen got up. She was a talented performer, the ideal girl next door look, and a perfect body. She looked like she could be on the cover of a magazine. Our group threw some money for her. A few minutes later, my boyfriend walked with me to the bar to get a drink, and while we were waiting, the stripper came and said hi, just small talk. She was incredibly sweet, complimented my dress and just had warm energy. My boyfriend asked if I wanted to dance. I reluctantly said sure. As she's giving me the dance, I guess I said something about how I wish I looked like her. She sort of paused and says, "You're kidding, right? You're the most beautiful woman in the building." I know strippers are always nice, it's how they make money. So I just said yeah. It's what she said next that made me tear up. She paused and says, "You know, it's your body that inspired the Renaissance. There are paintings worth millions and millions in museums all around the world of women who look like you. The ancient Greeks painted Aphrodite to look like you." She then gave a few specific compliments. I teared up. I had never had someone speak about my body like that. I've never looked at my body in that way. She made me feel beautiful. I think about what she said every time I catch myself in the mirror picking myself apart. I hope she made a ton of money that night. I might go back to thank her again. What ruined your Thanksgiving this year? My sister had an edible before the food was even ready and then retreated to her room due to being too high and started hinting for people to leave. Tooth infection that spread. Went to dentist yesterday to get antibiotics and it ballooned across my face overnight. So here I am, sitting in ER triage with a 101.3 fever and a face that hurts like hell. Big dinner. Turkey. Stuffing, mashed potatoes. Cornbread. The whole 9 yards. A colleague's daughter says she has a stomachache and doesn't feel well. Gut feeling is making me suspicious. We sit down. She gets up and proceeds to vomit all over the floor. Thankfully she missed the table, just all on the floor. Poor kid had a stomach virus she didn't know about. She didn't eat much after that. We spent 10 minutes cleaning it up. Sadly nobody wanted to have the stuff after that. I was sad cause it was amazing. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter I won't be coming to her wedding? My baby daddy was a narcissistic jerk and was often emotionally abusive to me and made me cry regularly. We had a daughter Mia. He left when she was 8 but regularly sent about $1,500 a month to watch her while he traveled the world. Mia would often cry about him missing her birthday but he would make up by it by sending her consoles and makeup, but it still hurt her that the guy didn't even bother showing up to her birthday. Mia is getting married soon and we were working on the guest list, and when we were talking about who was walking her down the aisle she would constantly switch the conversation, and me and my husband asked about it and she said she wants her bio dad to walk her down the aisle. My husband said, "Bullshit, I've been raising you forever, it's not fair," and Mia replied, "My real dad bought me a car, he paid for my surgery, and he even sent me money for a dog." My husband looked heartbroken and went out the house and told me he was going to the bar. Mia looked at me and said, "Sorry mom, but I want him. I know you and him have bad blood but I want him to do it. I've been sending letters and he's been sending them back." I then said something I regretted. I said, "If you invite him I'm not giving you my wedding dress or coming." Mia started tearing up and said, "Fine, don't come," and ran out. Now my family is calling me heartless. I cheated on my wife 3 years ago. She agreed to forgive me if we open the marriage, but now I live in agony every day. So basically my wife found out that I have been hooking up with a woman I met online who lived 2 hours away. When the woman visited we checked into a hotel. This went on for 3 months and we had met a handful of times. When my wife caught us, she was waiting in the hotel lobby and saw us coming down from the room. She left me the next day. We separated for 8 months and they were terrible on all of us, especially the children. We started talking about getting back together. My wife thought that since our sex life wasn't enough for me, and that she was sure I will cheat on her again, we might as well open the marriage. I told her no because I've learned my mistake, but she wouldn't waver. I relented. We decided not to tell each other the when, where and with whom. Now, over 2 years later, we are back to normal on the outside. On the inside I'm dying a little each day. Every time I see her happy I wonder if this is just her old bubbly self or if she was thinking of someone. She is a very beautiful woman and I'm sure she has no problems finding men who want her. Whenever she takes a shower after coming home, whenever she rejects my advances, I think that she has been with someone and that kills me. I have tried to discuss closing the marriage again but she shuts these attempts very quickly with the divorce card. Before all this happened we had amazing sex several times a week, but now, we have probably done it 4 to 5 times these past 3 years. She demands I use protection and she refuses to let me eat her or make her come in any way. I stopped asking because the sex is painfully bad now. I haven't slept with anybody else because the look on my wife's face in that lobby still makes me sick with guilt. I don't know how much more I can take. I love my wife and I want to spend the rest of my life with her. Will she ever stop punishing me? Have you ever forgiven a cheating spouse and stopped punishing them? What's going on in her head? What should women be allowed to do without being judged? Ask for a pad or tampon. Age and peace. Not using makeup. Nearly anything. Same as any other human being. Fart. I dated a girl who farted one time in front of me and started crying because it's so gross. Adjust bras in public. She should absolutely be allowed to have proper-sized pockets in her clothes, not wanting to have children, being single. Especially older and single. I got a text from husband by mistake that he was supposed to send to his AP. I have been doing an online college for 3 years. Now the last 6 months is an internship where I had to relocate to the capital that is 5 hours train ride from where my husband and I live with our 2-year-old. I can only afford going home 2 weekends a month. We're saving to buy a house once I'm finished with my studies and landed a decent job. Yesterday I got a very suspicious text that said no sleepover, early day tomorrow. WTF? I logged in my husband's iCloud. He has been sleeping with a friend of ours and the reason is that I'm not home to take care of his needs. He tells this friend over and over again that this is just sex, just as long as I'm not in town and that he loves me and isn't interested in her emotionally. She's a temporary solution. I mean I get it. Dicks probably fall off if they don't get wet, so I fully understands you husband. I sent him the screenshots of my findings, and believe it or not I also have needs but instead of sneaking around behind his back with a mutual friend I introduced him to my temporary solution. I'm contemplating forwarding the screenshots to the woman and her husband too. I think we all need to be on the same page. It's just fair, isn't it?